Welcome to Power Up Your Practice, the go-to podcast for law firm owners and managing attorneys working on the business, not in it. I'm Ruby Powers, your guide into the heart of law practice management, bringing your insights from leading legal minds, trailblazing attorneys, and expert guests who provide practical perspectives on running your firm more effectively and efficiently. And before we dive in, I'm thrilled to announce that my latest book, Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with actionable advice for growing a successful law firm. Be sure to grab your copy today. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive tips and resources. And if you're enjoying this podcast, we love your reviews. They help us reach more attorneys like you who are striving to build the practice of their dreams. Prepare to open your mind, be inspired, and power up your practice to the next level. Everyone, this is Ruby Powers, your host of Power Up Your Practice, a guide through the ever-evolving world of law practice management. And I'm excited to have Achal Augustine today, founder of PhoneNinjas AI. He's a visionary entrepreneur exploring how artificial intelligence is reshaping the legal world and beyond. We had the opportunity to meet at the ABA Tech Show, Taste of Tech Show dinner one time, and we also have the Texas connection as well. And so welcome to the show. Glad to have you.
Thanks for having me. Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah. So I think that for this last year, I've been hearing of either companies popping up that are doing these AI answering services or reception, depending on we were just talking about like the terminology. I even have an attorney friend that was working on building one out for his own firm. I think when I heard about these, I was like, really? Is this real? Is it how extensive can the conversation go? Can I trust to use this service with those calling or existing clients? But anyway, before I go into those questions, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'd love to explore more about what this AI answering services are all about.
Okay. Yeah, I've been in technology space for 20 plus years. Started as a programmer and then did a lot of consulting for different large companies over the last 10 years. And recently started AI-specific consulting. So that's when I reached out to different law firms and mid-sized companies about their AI consulting needs. And one of the first things I proposed was AI chatbot. I reached out to law firms and said, do you want to improve your chatbots by providing an AI-based chatbot? And their response was, no, chatbots are not getting used that well, but it would be great if we could automate the answering service. We are paying a lot of money for answering service providers who essentially provide a call center type service, but they tend to not stick to the script because they have a lot of employee turnover. And a lot of times the answers they provide doesn't match the firm's policies. So it'll be great to have an AI answering service. So the idea came up through a conversation with the law firm, and we ended up building a solution to specifically answer that need of having very accurate information about the law firm, but at the same time not extremely expensive. So we were able to find a accurate AI solution that meets the needs of the law firms. At the same time, it's not super cost prohibitive to use it.
Awesome. Well, so I think when okay, so how does it work? Like how does if someone I think you did a demo with me, and but like for those who've never explored this at all, like how does it work? Like I think you can transfer your phone number, your law firm phone number, for example, to the number that you provide, I guess. And then when someone calls, like a prospective client or existing client, what happens next?
Yeah, the most common use case is after hours. So many law firms already have an in-house receptionist to man the phones during the daytime. So they're pretty good at answering calls and providing the right response, but they may not have anybody after hours. So what we do is we create an agent based on the law firm's website. Basic information is mostly on the website, so we don't have to work with us. You don't have to spend too much time with us to tell us what the firm does, as long as the information on the website is accurate. We create an agent for the specific law firm, and then once the agent is created, it gets assigned a phone number. So it's like a standard 10-digit phone number gets assigned to the agent, and then the law firm can forward phone calls after hours if they want to start with after hours, let's say 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. next day, to this new phone number, which would the clients would call the firm's number, and then the calls get forwarded to the AI agent's phone number. So it's a seamless process. The callers don't realize that they are calling to a different number. They are calling the same number, and at the same time, the firm can control, what time of the day the calls need to go to the AI agent versus the in-house receptionist. The agent can do pretty much all the answering service providing, the providers, the services they provide, answer questions about the firm, general fee structure if they have a standard fee structure listed on their website or they like to share with their clients. Or the other common use case is asking pre-screening questions. What has happened recently with your immigration law situation, or what has happened recently with your um, criminal defense or personal injury law scenario. So asking questions about, it's like a mini intake questionnaire about finding out why they're calling and if your firm would be a good fit for that person's needs.
So in terms of like the I mean, but so you might use it only potentially for after hours, but I mean those calls are important too. Like I mean, we have after hours service with our firm with like because our clients could be all over the world, or that's exactly when they have time to have a call. So you train the list of potential questions that they could have, but you also work on maybe making like more of like a limited discussion potentially, so that the individual gets a call back later to go in more in depth if necessary.
Yeah, we typically work with our clients to keep the questions to about 10 or less number of questions so that the
Uh-huh.
the caller doesn't feel like interrogated in the first call. We collect the basic information and also get a feel for the firm's fitness, and then the personnel decide if it's a good fit, and then call them back for a detailed conversation. We also specifically tell the AI agents or design the agents not to give any legal advice, specifically because these agents are powered by OpenAI and Anthropic, the most powerful AI large language models. So they are quite capable of giving legal advice unless you specifically design them not to give legal advice. So that's what we do for our clients. None of the agents are allowed to give legal advice, and they don't do that. They do
Hmm.
speak English and Spanish fluently. They can switch back and forth mid conversation, and answer the questions that are relevant for the needs of the client, without giving direct legal advice.
Okay. How do you train them not to give legal advice? Like what's legal advice and what's not legal advice?
Yeah, that is tricky. We don't have a specific definition that we use. We use the standard approved, I guess, the internet version of what is legal advice. Yeah. So we don't, somebody asks, will I what should I do next to move the case forward? I guess that's legal advice. We don't give them an advice on that. We'll only set up appointments to discuss that with the attorney, so that they can, propose action that they need to take.
Okay. Um, and so really it sounds like a lot of the technology has been improving in this space, because even when I was talking to my friend who was building out a bot or something like one of these answering services for his own firm, he was experimenting and playing around with it and trying to make it even better. But like how I guess how do you sort of like train it to not be insensitive or rude, or like I mean how what goes into the building this of this out? So and I'm just really curious about that.
Yeah, a lot of the foundational stuff, the brains behind the technology is similar to what ChatGPT is built on. So there are
Mhm.
4 or 5 major AI providers. OpenAI is one of the leading ones. Then there's Anthropic, Google, and Facebook, Meta. Those are the 4 major US providers. There is a French company, Mistral, and there are a few Chinese companies out there too. But in the US, those are the 4 major AI providers, and these 4 providers have built-in frameworks to be professional and caring and funny sometimes. Depending, we can fine tune some of those characteristics, but the base
Mhm.
foundation models are designed by those large companies by training these models to behave in a certain way. So we don't do any of that training or the model building per se. What we do is we take the foundational models and give it some direction on how it should behave. For example, for the answering service, we would configure the agent to behave like an answering service, not as a consultant. So the AI is agents are capable of doing different things. It can act like a math tutor if it needs to behave like a math tutor, or it can be a receptionist, or it can be a professor. So it is capable of doing different personas because the foundational models have all the knowledge that is distilled from the internet, essentially. So it's capable of doing a lot more than an AI receptionist, but
Mhm.
we for it to act and behave like a receptionist for a specific law firm.
So basically, if you were just to dip your toe into like experimenting with it, you could maybe just have it for after hours or weekends, maybe on collecting like just like callback information potentially or
Right.
key. Okay, and then just like basically leave it at we'll get back with you. Or like for our firm, we have online scheduling on our website, so we could maybe just say you can go to our website to schedule a consult if you want to get on the calendar or something like that.
Yeah, so the technology is capable of booking appointments. So if the firm that we're working with is interested in booking appointments, we do book appointments by talking to the caller, and putting them on a calendar for a callback. So that's definitely within the capabilities of the agents. Some firms choose not to do that. They want to do the pre-screening of the call results and then decide to give an appointment. So that's pretty common. So we have clients who want to book appointments, and in that scenario, the AI agent will ask the caller what time is best for you this week, tomorrow, or next week, and then we'll set up a call for them. So that's definitely a possibility. So we can also redirect them to go to the website, but if they're making a phone call, they're likely to want to get a result from that phone call. So if the firm wants to get an appointment booked, we'll talk to the caller and look at the calendar behind the scenes. So the AI agent is capable of looking at calendars while speaking, and then give the caller a few options to pick, and then based on that, they can book an appointment during the call.
Well, so and then you said that there's some other things that you could train it to do, like um, maybe asking the client questions for a questionnaire potentially, or like what are some of the other like other case use cases that you could use the answering service AI answering service for?
Yeah, so one of the really interesting, I think, also helpful use cases we ran into with the bar associations. Nashville Bar Association is a very good example. They are one of our we sponsor one of our good clients. They had trouble hiring and keeping receptionists full time because it's a tiring, thankless job. They get hundreds of calls each day, and a lot of them are people complaining about their life situations or needing legal assistance, but they're not capable of finding the legal assistance themselves. So, due to the high volume of calls and the expense associated with keeping somebody full time, they decided to remove a phone based answering from their service. So they are providing a lawyer referral service, but decided to go completely online, which is fine. Online works for people who are computer savvy and have the time to fill out the form. But a lot of people who are trying to find access to justice or access to law, criminal defense or other type of services, were not very computer savvy, and they were not getting the access they needed. But with the AI agent, they were able to put the phone number back on the website, and now they're getting close to 1,000 calls a month, which is 50 to 60 calls a day, and that's just between 9 to 5. They didn't even allow after hours because they were getting too many calls to the AI agent, which is much more cost effective for them. They don't have to have a full time person answering calls. They would still get full transcript, the summary, and depending on the type of call, they can either send them to legal aid if they're looking for pro bono services, or if they're looking for like a paid service, they can match them with the right attorney. So it's a
So
huge, I think it's a huge increase in access to just that way.
that's awesome. So you can provide a transcript of the dialogue as well?
Yeah, we can do a summary of the entire conversation in 1 or 2 sentences, which is the most useful thing that AI can do without having to read the full transcript. We also provide the full transcript and the recording in case they want to go back and listen to the recording or want to pick out some specific things that happened during the call. But the transcript is very useful, and the summary is even more powerful. Most of our clients love the summary. They read the summary and they get a good idea of why the call happened, and if they need to call them back to give referral service or onboard them as a new client, etc. We also have a customer portal that you can log into. You can see all the calls listed there. The customer portal also allows clients to pick and choose voices and names for their agents, so you can pick from. There are hundreds of voices out there, AI voices available for us from our system, and we handpicked about 15 of those voices that we think are best fit for answering service, and our clients have an option to choose from one of those 15 options, and they can name their agent in that process and also select the initial answering phrase.
Oh wow. I really like the idea of the answering the forms or the questionnaire. I was talking to my team this morning about how we do we do immigration, and there was this client that I had to prep for asylum interview yesterday, and we went over the form, and I realized there was like all these mistakes that he apparently had approved with my assistant. But then when I went over it with him painstakingly line by line, I realized that some of the state like he's on the form it said his dad was alive, but really his dad had passed away. I'm like,
Wow.
how did you not get that right? And then I later talked to my assistant, and she said, well, he was really bad at email. He would answer one response per email. It sounds like a nightmare. And
Yeah.
and then I was like, okay, would it have been better maybe, because we do have some low tech clients, and we get that, but like to maybe just get on the phone and just like go through the list of questions. But then I'm like, that takes a lot of time and that's expensive. But if there was a tool like this, and if the client can't just answer the questions on a questionnaire, then if you were to just ask them, like, where is your parent, where do they live, where were they born, and
Yeah.
then that could be put into a form, or at least the questionnaire that can be populated into the form. I mean, not just immigration attorneys. I could see this could be something very valuable, especially like a lot of times people don't want to answer all those things. They'd rather talk it out. So,
Yeah, especially if it's a high paragraph, long description of an incident that happened, or they came to the country 6 months ago, and these are the things that happened in the last 6 months. It would be hard for them to type it all out, and if you give them
mhm.
the opportunity to speak it out, they will be more than willing to describe what happened, what transpired. If they came with their dad or mom, etc., in the immigration scenario, and then the AI can then summarize it too. So you don't have to read the full long paragraph, but you are looking for a specific answer. When did they arrive in the country, etc. That can be found in the answers. So we can also fill out the specific forms fields if it's not included in the description or the long description that they
Mhm.
provide. We can
Yeah.
go back to the caller and ask them questions that are missed in the long answer.
Um, well, that I think that those different key use cases are really should be explored, and probably, I mean, I think I'm sort of like, I call myself an innovator early adapter in that whole Rogers innovation curve, you know. But I think when I first heard about these bots or whatever we call these AI answering things, I was like a little reluctant. I was like, well, what if they like, you know, sound too mechanical? But now I know the voices are like awesome. Or what if it's like insensitive? Like, what if someone says you know, my dad passed away, and then they just go on to the next sentence on the list of questions instead of saying, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, or something like that. Like, so I think like, and we do a lot of trauma work with Violence Against Women Act, victims of trafficking, victims of crime. I'm even in personal injury. There's a lot of situations like that. But so I think there's just some reasons why I would be a little hesitant. But now that I've been demoing some, and like even when you guys had, and I don't know, I feel like I'm building some confidence about it, especially if maybe you do it a little bit and you experiment and you keep tweaking it. And I'm sure the technology will just continue to get better.
Yeah, the technologies continue to get better. And we also provide a 14-day free trial as part of our onboarding process. So the first 14
Uh-huh.
days, first 2 weeks, you're basically trying it for free. If you like the solution, you can keep running it, or you can, terminate the free trial after the 14 days. In that 14-day period, we the first day of the trial, we set up the agent. You can actually call the agent that day, but you get to fine tune the answers. If the agent says the minimum fee is $3,000, but that was 2 years ago, you changed your fees. You can change those things, or if you think it's not empathetic enough, you can add additional constraints to be more empathetic.
Are you finding yourself overwhelmed with handling phone calls and spending endless hours on consultations that just don't qualify? Well, let me introduce you to Staffy Live, your ultimate solution for 24/7 live receptionist and intake services tailored specifically for law firms. Now, picture this: empathetic, truly bilingual specialists who understand the intricacies of client care and are experts at asking all the right questions to qualifying callers efficiently. Now that with Staffy Live, you'll feel like you have a trusted partner by your side, ensuring only qualified consultations make it on your calendar and providing valuable follow-ups when needed. As someone who's been using Staffy Live for my own law firm, I couldn't be happier. And I guess what Staffy Live is now offering, a generous 15-day free trial with no strings attached. You can head over to staffy.cc. That's stafi.cc and click Get Started. And don't forget to use the code RUBY, RUBY. Your future self will thank you. Oh, okay. But you know, that's really good to know, and that you can sort of tailor it to your particular case. Huh. Well, just like without maybe saying dollars or numbers, like what percentage is this less expensive than having like an in person in the US versus maybe a virtual assistant potentially doing this?
Yeah, it's much more cost effective than hiring a full time person for sure. I think we are one third or one fifth the cost of a traditional answering service. We have even replaced some overseas answering service people, mostly because we were cost comparable, but more accurate in sticking to the rules of the firm, or the type of questions they wanted to ask. So I would say it's comparable to overseas um, answering service providers. At the same time, more accurate than a human. Mostly with employee retention, if there's a lot of attrition, it's kind of hard to maintain quality when you have a lot of employee attrition. So we can provide, I would say, roughly one third to one fifth of hiring a person.
It's the cost of one third or one fifth the cost of having, wow, a person doing it. Wow.
Yeah.
So so really, if it just continues to expand in its functionality and you ability to you know, I guess uh,
Do more work.
have a diversity of conversation, of dialogue, then it can, you know, one thing that I think is giving me a little more confidence. Okay, I know it's not the same thing, but my daughter has Duolingo, and she calls Lily. I don't know if people are listening or know what I'm talking about, but like I guess we have like a paid version or something like that. But anyway, she calls Lily, this character on Duolingo, and she has like complete dialogue with it. She forced me to do it one time, and then at the end, and like she's adapting to the conversation. So I bet it's pretty much like that, you know. And at the end, there's like even a transcript that says like where you did right and where maybe you did wrong or something. And I'm just like, man, this technology is so freaking amazing. Like it's exciting.
Yeah, the Duolingo is also using similar AI technologies behind the scenes. They're using the same foundational models to create that talking conversational agent.
Yeah.
It is definitely the same AI power technology. There are certain things that AI is not capable of doing at the moment, which is accessing your computer system and in doing things that traditional an employee would do. So if you had an employee, you give access to your calendar, you give them access to your books to collect payment, etc. Those are features that are in the works. AI agents are not really good at navigating the browser, the spreadsheet, the PowerPoint. Those are things that are not us directly, but the AI providers and the other tooling providers are working on. Um, Probably in the next 2 to 3 years, AI agents would be capable of being like an employee. You would be able to hire an assistant AI agent who is trained to do specific things, and they would log into your computer with their username and password and do certain things in your system, which current agents are not capable of independently operating. That's our
Mm-hmm.
biggest drawback. They need to be told exactly what to do. So answering a phone call is very specific. But if you say you have to do answer phone calls, book appointments, collect payments, those are like four different things. And three of those four things will need access to your system, your payment systems or your booking system. Those are the capabilities that are coming in the future. I think once those get here, these agents will be more like a receptionist and less like an answering service agent.
Okay. Well, I just think that's really interesting how it sort of felt like if you were doing the virtual assistant or remote team a few years ago, you were ahead. And then now I feel like the people who are getting ahead are being more AI minded and sort of just forward are using these type of tools that are out there, experimenting, tweaking, improving. And then I mean, you know, really where a lot of attorneys are supposedly get in trouble is like not responding to calls or communicating or something like that, right? And so like any other way that we can find ways to be accessible and communicating, I
Yeah,
think is essential.
yeah. One of the common calls I hear from our clients is making a payment. They call at night to make a payment, like 7:30 payment.
Yeah.
The payment is due next day, and they can't make the payment. But we started providing that service to one of our clients through a combination of AI and a traditional payment processing system.
Uh-huh.
That's one. The second most common call is case status calls to see when is my next court date, and that
Mm-hmm.
information the system in at the law firm. They know it. The clients can access it directly, or they don't have a website login most of the time, and
Mm-hmm.
the AI agents are capable of connecting to the law firm system and then provide just the date, not how to prepare for the case or what to say in the courtroom, but just to tell them the court date is, October 5th at 10 p.m., 10 a.m. at this address. So we can tailor the AI to just provide limited information like a receptionist would do, um, and cut back on the frustration that clients have. Why can't they give us an update on next court date is, or basic information, which would take a lot of time from a law firm's point of view if they had to answer every single call from clients asking about their case status.
Well, and then I think this reminds me of a case, maybe it's in the last 6 months, where somebody relied on an AI bot from an airline about cancellation or something like that. And then in the end, the bot gave bad info.
Mm-hmm.
And you heard about that one? I mean, of
Yes,
course,
I
there's
did.
like that the ones that give the bad AI a bad, the bad name, and then it gets everybody like, oh, now we can't use this. But I'm sure it gets improved. And
Yeah,
there's a
absolutely.
yeah,
AI makes mistakes, just like employees make mistakes. So there was an AI
yeah,
agent airline industry, there was a customer service AI agent that said, yeah, there is no cancellation fee for this scenario, which was not per their policy, but it hallucinated and made up some exception to the rule and give an answer. So they were able to, get out of that policy because the AI agent represents the company and gave a wrong answer. That is partly because of the configuration settings. When you set up the AI, you need to tie it down to a law firm or a business's policies. If it doesn't get tied, specifically bound by the policies, it will answer based on what's on the internet. So anything in the internet, it's used for the training of the AI bots. So it will come up with an answer that sounds most realistic. The most likely answer would be the answer that they would say. So that's part of the AI configuration process that has now there's a solution for it, but you still have to take that step. So you still need to work with the right firms to do the setups. A lot of times, if you are doing it yourself, you can still do it. It's not as extremely complex, but you just have to be careful to make sure the AI agent that you create, especially customer client facing agents, stick to your firm's policies and not completely untethered to your firm and comes up with answers on their own.
Yeah, yeah. And then, but you're also doing like quality control, and you can see the summaries and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it can help, you can help try to respond back in real time if you find a mistake or something like that.
Right, we can course correct at any point, but the best action is to do a lot of trial before releasing to the clients. Get the in-house people, try it out for the first 2 weeks, find out any
Mm-hmm.
issues that they may run into, and then correct the agent before we release it to the clients. So just like any new
Mm-hmm.
software, there's a configuration and testing phase. It's still software, piece of software, although it sounds like a human. It's still a piece of
Mm-hmm.
software that needs to be configured and tested before releasing into clients.
Yeah. Well, it sounds really promising. So, and I know you gave me access to a demo, and like I think like I was probably thinking like most people in the beginning, like, ooh, is it the tech ready? Is it ready? But like the more I the more I'm hearing about it, and it's building my confidence and demoing different ones. And like I was asking you at the beginning before we started recording, like I don't think there's a lot of companies that are providing this service right now, right? This is pretty cutting edge in a way.
Yeah, there are probably 10 or so companies providing the service at the moment. And it's increasing. A lot of the traditional players who provided answering service just with humans are
Uh,
adding AI to their mix, just like Duolingo added AI into their solution. There's more and more competition happening in this field, which is fine, which just means that the market is slowly picking up to the potential and starting to
mhm.
use AI more and more. But yeah, at the moment, there aren't that many firms providing the service.
I was completely separate from this. I was talking to some colleagues and that were at the ABA Tech Show, and they said someone came up to them to demo. I don't think it was you. I think it was somebody else, but from the description they told me. And so they were exploring it, and then the AI bot said something like, "Oh, where are you?" And then the person said, "I'm at the ABA Tech Show." And then the bot came back and says, "Oh, so you're at the ABA Sex Show?" And then it was like, it's like, no, okay, go back and work on the tech a little bit, and then circle back to me.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's that's just part of the whole being an innovator. There's some hiccups along the way, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of
And she was like, "No, thank you."
yeah.
But
It can be if it's not done correctly, it can be annoying sometimes. If you ask too many questions, or if you don't ever give access to the attorneys that they're expecting to get access to, it can be a
mhm.
problem. Or got like mistakes, like you mentioned, giving
Yeah.
wrong information about the services that you provide.
Yeah. But I think like over time, we're going to get to the point where we could be there already, where the benefit outweighs by having like your test case, like you were saying with some of the state bars or some of the nonprofits, like, but they before they like just didn't have a phone number, right? Because they just couldn't, they didn't have the funds for the bandwidth for that. But now they can service so many more people and be more communicative with their customers or their audience and their community. And so I think like even if you baby steps, like you just maybe collect some information and then you expand and improve and improve. And then, I mean, that's pretty much just the way we've been doing almost everything else in AI or anything else innovative. You don't go crazy. You try and then you make sure you're being diligent and ethical and then you keep expanding and you always are cost benefit analyzing the situation.
Yeah, I think the direction is most likely going to be people are going to adopt the least friction path.
Mm-hmm.
Water always, flows downhill. So the firms that allow people to communicate freely will probably win more clients because clients want to talk freely as frequently as possible to their law firms.
Mm-hmm.
And the firms that find the way to provide that conversational access will probably get more clients because there is definitely a huge bandwidth issue with speaking and typing. You can say, "Oh, why don't you fill out the form?" It's definitely an option, but the faster way of communication is always speaking. That's part of the reason people do podcasts, right? We can speak a lot more words than type it up. So I think eventually all communication with computers will be through voice. I think typing will
Mm-hmm.
go away. It'll be a while. Eventually, it'll go away, and I think answering service is one of those tools that push human computer interaction that direction. So less typing, with with Siri getting better. I know Apple Siri is not a good example now, but eventually, like Alexa is getting better, Google's agents are getting better. All communication to computers will eventually become more speaking long form, or even speaking short form, and there'll be less and less texting.
Yeah, I agree. I have to still turn my book into Audible because who's going to read 713 pages? No, just kidding.
Right. Yeah. No, especially when you're driving or you're working out, you
Right,
listen.
right.
You can't really
I've
read a
been
book.
I've been traveling so much. I've been like plowing through books this last like month. It's freaking awesome. But I do need to go back and slow mo it a little bit and make sure I retained it properly. But anyway, I digress. So it's been great asking you all these questions, and I think we're gonna see a lot more of this space. And so I'm glad that we connected serendipitously at ABA Tech Show and I think you helped walk us through sort of like what the capabilities are and sort of just keep an eye out for this, especially if people are interested in these types of services. But before we close up, I like to ask a couple questions. So, what's your favorite board game?
I'm not a big board game person, but I do like to play Texas Hold'em. I mean, it's a
Oh,
simple
okay,
game, poker.
yeah,
And I saw you asked about how does it apply to business. Yeah, and one of the things I like about Texas Hold'em is there is some strategy involved.
uh,
You have to be aggressive at certain points in time when the market and the time is right, and you also have to be defensive at certain points in the game. So just like any business, when you are growing, you want to be careful how much you spend in marketing and expanding, and also be defensive about maintaining and retaining your clients that are already yours, right? You want to take care of your clients before trying to acquire new clients. So that I think it applies to life in general.
Well, that's if you had read this one section of my book, which I didn't expect you to, I actually did write about how poker
Yeah.
applies to business.
Okay.
And how my family got really into poker during the pandemic. We were playing. My brother-in-law was really good at it, and so he was teaching us all when we were bubbling together in the
Mhm.
pandemic here in Houston, and just reading people statistics, probability, bluffing, lots of fun
Yeah.
things, so I was like, this is really, and the more I like learned that, then I was like, there's some really good business principles here. But yeah, poker can be fun. And especially like when I roll up to like a little house party and my little kids can beat grown-ups. They're like, they
Yeah.
don't expect them to be poker sharks. And I'm like, so
Nice.
anyway, everybody listening, just don't tell anybody. That's one of my secrets.
It's been a
Oh,
surprise.
what is a habit that do you think contributes to your success?
Um, I think consistency, like a lot of the long projects take consistent work. The results are not obvious in one day or two. You got to keep working at it, and the power of compounding doesn't show up the day you start. It takes months and sometimes years of work to see the results you want to see. So consistency is a key. I think it helps me to be consistent. If I get into a habit, it's easier for me to stick with the habit. So I try to be consistent as much as possible. Work out frequently, do as many hours as possible at the beginning of the day. Computer type work. That's the type of work I need to do. Office stuff. Allocate some time for creative work, which is also necessary. Thinking about new campaigns, marketing campaigns, or taking the product to the market requires some calm thought. And also then there's the day-to-day operations. We already have some clients who are asking for new features or maintaining them. So being able to allocate time for different parts of my job and then being consistent with it, like you can't just stop one day, you have to keep going.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think is your superpower?
Superpower. I think I don't have any superpowers, to be honest. I'm pretty much average person. One thing I've noticed is that I can be available any time of the day. A lot of people have a strict 9 to 5 boundaries.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't have that. I'm available for my clients' needs 24/7. Obviously, I do rest and take family time.
Hmm.
But if there is any superpower, it's being able to respond to my employees' needs or client needs any time of the day, as long as I'm, up and awake. I had an issue this Sunday and I was able to resolve it in like 2 hours, which typically, if you're an employee, you don't feel like you're not supposed to be working the weekend. But as an owner, founder, you're expected to be available, um, which is a superpower for the time being. But eventually, I want to get to a point where I have different people allocated for different times of the day, and I don't have to be
Yeah.
available. But early on, I think it's a helpful strength to have.
And then what is a favorite podcast or book that you would recommend? You're like, oh my gosh, this is so great.
If it's there's a podcaster I really like for AI. He gets really into the details of AI. His name is Darkesh
Hmm.
Patel, and his podcast is about different types of AI models and how good they're going to be in the future, debating about potential downsides of AI, potential unemployment issues, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the podcast I would recommend. I'll put it in the chat. For,
Oh,
for,
okay, awesome. We'll put it in the show notes. Well, it's been great having this opportunity to dialogue and learn more about what AI answering services are all about and sort of where they're at right now in this day and age. Where can people find you and connect and just continue the conversation after this episode?
I'm active on LinkedIn. If you look my name up, you can find me there, or PhoneNinjas.ai. That's our website. You can message us there too. So either LinkedIn or our website.
And awesome. So we'll go ahead and put that in the show notes for anybody who, for people to reach out to you and learn more. Well, Achal, this is really great to get to have this conversation, and I'm really glad that we discussed it. And AI is cropping up everywhere. I mean, we were at ABA Tech Show, we're in all of these AI type of things, but I think a lot of times people get overwhelmed, and just to sort of see like this use case of like practice case of how you can benefit our firm in even multiple ways besides just answering the phone, but also working through forms or giving callbacks or giving information that might be something that the clients just really wants to and can't wait for a call back from an attorney or an email or something like that. So I think I'm staying positive about this. I think there's a lot of potential in the future, and it sounds like the technology is already here right now. So that's exciting.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks for having me. It was a nice
yeah,
question. Appreciate
yeah,
it.
no problem. My pleasure. Well, thanks everyone for listening. We're excited that the book, Power Up Your Practice, we have the Facebook group, conversation community. We've got a new community coming out on school. And we'll give more information about that. I'll be at the ABA. I'm working on the ABA Tech Show planning for 2026 and just working on a lot of different projects. So excited to share all those things. And if you haven't already make sure you subscribe to our Power Strategy Group newsletter where you can find out more about what we're up to. So thanks everyone. We'll see you next. Thank you for tuning in to the Power Up Your Practice Law Practice Management podcast. I'm your host, Ruby Powers, and it's been a pleasure sharing this time with you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review, tell someone else about us, and we'd love to get this podcast shared with others to reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter for exclusive content, tips, and updates straight to your inbox. And exciting news, our book, The Power Up Your Practice, is out and available on Amazon. It's packed with strategies, 25 chapters, to help you elevate your practice and achieve your goals. So join us next week as we dive into more advice and insight on law practice management. We'll see you next time.